We love Zencaster because it allows us to record the audio for our podcast and create the video segments we use for our weekly Sister Scoop episodes. Zencaster has helped us make content capture simple.
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests, and feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you've thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencaster's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast in one place and distribute it to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations.
Just go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use our code SistersAssembled, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Katie and I are always hungry, and one snack we both love is beef jerky. That's why we're so excited to tell you about one of our favorite jerky brands, Matt Hat Jerky.
Matt Hat's delicious taste makes it a great snack, and the variety of flavors, including original, black truffle, and my personal favorite, roasted garlic, means there's a flavor for everyone. Plus, it's local to the area where we grew up in, which we just love.
Use the link in the show notes below to get some Matt Hat Jerky for yourself, and make sure to use our coupon code SistersAssembled for 10% off. Hello, listeners, and welcome to Sisters Assembled, where we have been covering our fan cast for the X-Men for the last few weeks, and we have now reached the final episode in this series, where we will be casting the final three, what we're going to call main X-Men characters based on the main team from X-Men 97. So if you've been keeping track, we now just have Jubilee, Morph, and Cable left, and that is who we're going to be casting today. So without any further ado, I'm going to send this over to Katie, who's going to give us her thoughts on Jubilee.
Yes, so my first pick is not a surprise to anybody who's watched any of the X-Men movies, or I should say the second half of the X-Men movies. And that's Lana Condor. She did actually play Jubilee for about 0.5 seconds in one of the crappier X-Men movies that they've made in the more recent years. And I feel like she deserves to reprise the role, actually have a script that's worth it, and a role that's worth it, and show us what she could do as Jubilee. I love her from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. That was great trilogy, our fave, Jenny Han. So I would like to actually see her pull off the role properly, not for like the little bit that they wrote her in. And honestly, it was more of a waste of her character, in my opinion, anyway. So I'd like to see her come back. And so I put my vote for Lana.
I 100% back this. I was going to put Lana as one of my Jubilee picks, but because she's already played the character, I decided to leave her off. But I agree. Just the little bit that she's been in the X-Men franchise should not necessarily remove her from contention, because to your point, it's such a little bit of screen time, and it's kind of a waste of an actress who could actually do a really good job in the role that she didn't get the opportunity to do more with the character. So I would 100% back the opportunity for Laura to come back, reprise her role, do a very different take on the character, in the sense that she'd actually have some meat to the character in the way that she's written, because we get to see a lot of Jubilee in the animated series.
Right.
So it would be cool to see those types of storylines be brought into live action with someone who is as talented as Lana, because she really is. I mean, I also love To All the Boys I Loved Before, and she just is so funny. She's so cute, and I think she could really embody like Jubilee's just level of energy really, really well, and I would love to see that.
Yeah, I definitely think she deserves a reprisal. She deserves a round 2 for no fault of her own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been done before in terms of characters reprising their roles. Like, obviously, Hugh Jackman is playing Wolverine again in the new Deadpool movie. And similarly, we all saw how terrible the Deadpool was in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
True.
Where they literally sewed his mouth shut when the character is known to be a yapper.
The merc with the mouth. I mean, what the heck?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, characters have come back and actors have reprised their roles in better written movies, and when they're given cooler arcs that actually make sense with their character. So I don't see why not. I mean, it's been done before.
Yeah, and like I said, she was in it for very little, so I feel like you can almost write it off and be like, well, did it really matter? And also, again, depending on your opinions of the later X-Men movies, most people would agree they're not nearly as good as the first few. So I'd like to see her be able to come back for this role. But my other pick, if we want to go, and some of this is also look wise, a little younger. I know Jubilee is obviously younger compared to the rest of the X-Men. In the animated show, she is like 16. She's very young, which is why she's not really out on missions with them a lot. But my next pick is Peyton Elizabeth Lee. She's actually a Disney kid, and I will not admit to still being a Disney kid when she was on Disney. I was not personally watching much of Disney at the time, but I did know who she was. I did know the show. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it's like Andy Mack or something like that. She was in there. I think she has an impeccable resemblance to the animated Jubilee. In my opinion, it's kind of uncanny, actually. It's as if you took her out of the animated show, and that is what Peyton Elizabeth Lee looks like. So I think between the resemblance and I don't know her past Disney, but I think she could probably pull off the role. This would again be if they were going really young with Jubilee, depending on are other X-Men going to be in their late 20s, early 30s, or late 30s, early 40s kind of vibe. So it'll have to depend on that. But she would be my second pick for Jubilee.
Yeah, if this was past your Disney era, this was way past my Disney era. So, not familiar with any of her work, but did just a quick little Google image search. I 100% see what you're saying on the resemblance. It really is kind of crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if this show hadn't ended before she was even born, I'd wonder if she was like the model for who they used as a reference for Jubilee. So, just from looks alone, I could totally get behind that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm looking at a picture right now, and I totally agree. I think Taylor pretty much just said what I would say. I wasn't a peruser of the Disney Channel. I was more of a Nickelodeon kid myself, personally. But yeah, so just looking at how she looks, I agree. She looks perfect.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't super know anything else she's been in since, but I do remember her vaguely. It was that period of like, oh, I'll go on Disney and then realize I don't really have an interest in this anymore, so I'd flip off of it. But like initially I'd go on for a little while. So I do remember her from that, and that is why she came to mind, because she has a very Jubilee-esque face. So she is my second pick.
Yeah, you also hope sometimes they can break the molds, because some child actors don't know how to break the Disney Channel way of delivering lines.
Yeah.
She's got the look down, and I'm sure she's talented as well. But there's a lot of Disney Channel stars that didn't quite get past the very cheesy line delivery.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, Davis, hit us with your Jubilee picks.
So my first pick, I recently saw The Fall Guy, and she was in it as well, and that is Stephanie Hsu, who is also in Everything Everywhere All at Once, played Michelle Yeoh's daughter, Joy, and then she also played the evil version of the daughter, Jobu. I thought she was really funny in The Fall Guy. She has a more comedic role in that movie, so that would be my first pick as well, because I really enjoyed Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Fall Guy, and I think she also has the right age range, I think, because I think for Jubilee, you kind of need someone who's more younger looking and more what's the word? Youthful. And I think Stephanie's got that youthful look. And based on what I've seen of her acting, she definitely is very, very talented. So that's why she was my first pick.
So the only red flag I'm going to raise is
Oh, no.
she was in Shang-Chi.
Oh, that's right. She was Shang-Chi's friend.
Yeah,
Ugh.
she played a small role.
Forgot about that.
So theoretically speaking, that doesn't mean anything. It's not like she was Aquafina's character, Katie, because obviously she is a bigger character. But yeah, she was in that movie.
Forgot
So
about
I am
that.
just raising the flag of has been in the MCU already.
Yeah, I think my other flag would just be she is 33. And
Really?
yes, she does look younger than that. But I don't know that she could necessarily, she could probably pull off early 20s.
Mhm.
Do I think she could pull off 16 to 18? Not 100% sure. However, on the opposite side of that, I think having the filmography of Everything Everywhere All at Once, I mean, that movie is one of the most awarded movies of the last 5 to 10 years. And so knowing that she was in something that was so well made and was able to stand up with actors and actresses who went on to win Oscars and Golden Globes for their performances, and I haven't seen the film, but I'm assuming, hold her own with that caliber of actor and actress, that gives me a lot of confidence in her ability to really nail a character. So I do have that little pause about the age, but I think in terms of talent and delivery, she could totally do it.
Yeah, okay. So for my second pick, I really liked Ashley Park. And she was also Mindy in Emily in Paris.
Oh, I
Although I
love
have not seen
her.
that show, I've heard good things about it.
She's awesome. Wait, I love her.
That show is
I
a
asked a
guilty
couple of my
pleasure show
buddies
for me.
who have seen Emily in Paris, and they said she was fantastic in it. So I'm going to take their word for it. I just really liked her character in Joyride, so Ashley Park would be my second choice for Jubilee.
Yeah, I like her as an actress. Again, though, early 30s. That's my
Yeah.
only thing, and I'm gonna hit you on it every time.
To be honest, I should have just looked up the age ranges, but I'm just like, no, I think they could do it.
Hey, if you feel it, you feel it. That's how I go off of these. I'm like, if they look it, like they do, you can't help it. I love her. She was on Broadway. She is an amazing star out there. But yeah, I second Taylor's concern of age, especially because I do feel like she definitely looks more her age. I think your first pick, whose name is currently escaping me, but I do remember as we just talked about it.
Stephanie Shu.
Yes. I think she had a better chance of pulling off the younger Jubilee than Ashley does.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky thing that we've had a little bit of trouble with so far, is just we're not quite sure which way Marvel's going to go. But I do agree with you guys. Jubilee kind of always is portrayed as kind of like a teenager.
Yeah, and that was kind of the interesting thing when I was casting this is I was looking at young actresses and I was like, "Oh, they're way too young." Because of what we've been doing, age wise, the kind of two brackets that we've been doing, thus far. And then I realized, oh my gosh, no, like Jubilee is so much younger than everyone else that like all of these young people that I'm looking at and putting forth, they actually work because she is so much younger than everyone. So that was like a whole mental flip that I tried or had to do while I was casting.
Well, and she might not be that much younger than some of them. Like, I think we always talk about how Rogue and Gambit are kind of in that ambiguous age range where they're definitely not. I don't get the vibe that they're Cyclops' age by any means, but they're also obviously not teenagers anymore. So I think there is like a middle tier. They just never really clarify what that is.
Yeah, I would agree. Alrighty, well, I'm excited to give my picks for Jubilee because our last pick was a star on Broadway, and my pick has recently been on Broadway. And I have selected as my number one pick Lola Tongue from The Summer I Turned Pretty. I knew you would get excited by this one.
I almost did Lana and Lola. But I was like, I can't do them both.
I thought about it. If you guys aren't familiar, Lola Tongue is in another Jenny Han project, The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is Caitlin and I. We have a big obsession. We straight up made sure we got tickets to Hadestown during Lola's time on Broadway as Eurydice. She was incredible. The woman can act on screen, on Broadway. She can sing, which I didn't know. And she's 21. So in terms of age, she could totally play Jubilee at the really young 16 end. I mean, Belly, the character that she plays in The Summer I Turned Pretty, is like 17. And Lola does have a younger look to her, so she could totally pull that off. And I love her so much. If you guys know that viral TikTok sound, that's totally your look, Connie baby, that's Lola. So a little bit of context for everybody. She's just the best.
Well, I give my full stamp of approval because I genuinely, when I was going to put Lana, I was like, who else? And then I was like, oh, Lola, of course. But then I was like, I can't do both of them. Like, I can't do both of Jenny Han's leading ladies. I have to at least pick somebody else.
It's okay. Between the two of us, we got both her leading ladies ready to go for Jubilee.
I give my stamp of approval.
Yes.
I will just go ahead and take your guys' word for it because I personally have not seen.
Your homework is to watch TSITP.
Oh my gosh.
These projects. Okay, I will. I'll make sure I want to. So I will blindly give my 2 thumbs up of approval.
Amazing, amazing. So my next selection is someone who I don't think I saw them in this show because I think I had kind of stopped watching before they came on. But this person was in Legends of Tomorrow, which is a DC like Arrowverse property, so has that kind of superhero background. And that's Ramona Young. She's 26. She was also, most of you will probably know her from Never Have I Ever, which is probably the more popular project that she's been in. But I just think having that superhero background and understanding how to play those types of characters. And at one time, I mean, the Arrowverse was like prime superhero TV. So I thought that she might be a really good option. I think she could also, because she's only 26 and she does have a face that I think looks a little younger, I feel like she could do that younger Jubilee that we're looking for. She also has a few photos online where she has pretty short hair. And knowing that Jubilee kind of has that longer pixie cut, it really kind of helped me visualize her in the role. And I just think look wise, she could totally do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm looking at her now. I don't personally know her acting abilities by any means. I did not watch anything she's in, but I'm looking at those pictures with kind of that shorter. She actually kind of has a pixie, and I could see it for sure. So I, as far as looks, will give her my stamp of approval.
Yeah, I agree. Just looking up pictures now. Yeah, she does kind of already have the shorterish hair. Yeah, I could see it too. But again, similar circumstance. I have not seen her in anything. But again, Taylor seems to know what she's doing, so I will go with it.
Sometimes she's had some weird picks throughout this.
Look, every once in a while you have to throw in like an off the wall one just to make sure people are paying attention. That's my job here. That and moderating.
Sure.
Gotta have something that's gonna create headlines. Give people something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, you can't all go with the ones that everybody's fan casting and has all the fan art for. You gotta throw some like interesting options in there to spice up the choices. But on that note, we are going to move into our second character, and that is Morph. So, Katie, I am excited to hear your picks for Morph.
Yes. So I went two different directions for Morph. The first one is just because I know this person is kind of insane as far as it comes to changing their look. And I was going off of Morph from X-Men 97, when Morph is completely ambiguous of gender. And I did Bill Skarsgård. For those who don't know, I mean, first off, there's like 17 million Skarsgårds. But for those of you who don't know which one I'm talking about It himself, the one who has made the comeback in the newer It ones that I think there were like 2 or 3 of them. I don't remember. But he is creepy as all heck in that movie. And I really like him. I think he can really change his appearance very well to morph. I'm using that both ironically and unironically into the character. And if they do choose to go about having that more ambiguous look. So I thought he could be a very interesting person. He also is into kind of being the slightly more strange character. And I feel like Morph is a little out there personality wise. So I think he could do that as well.
Yeah, I love that you picked up on the quirkiness of Bill Skarsgård and the way that that parallels kind of the quirkiness of Morph, because I think that's something that we really loved, especially in X-Men 97, because they gave them a lot more opportunity to like really showcase their personality versus they spent a lot of time dealing with the trauma of literally what happened to them in the second episode of the original series.
Yeah.
So I do think those parallels between that kind of ability of Bill to play those more quirky characters and then that innate quirkiness that we see in Morph in 97, if they choose to go that route, which if we see Morph in live action, I really hope they do, I think that could be a really, really good pick.
Yeah, I agree. I recently saw Bill Skarsgård in a movie called Boy Kills World, where he doesn't speak the entirety of the movie.
Sounds about right.
Because of something that happened as a child. And it's kind of funny because his internal monologue is the voice John H. Benjamin from Bob's Burgers. So the entire time it's happening, the guy from Bob's Burgers, is providing the narration. It was a very funny movie. But anyway, in the movie, it's basically just your typical constant action movie. So obviously the X-Men, they're going to need to fight. They're going to need to kick some ass. And in Boy Kills World, Bill Skarsgård, all he's doing is kicking ass. So I think that he'd be a great fit too. And from that perspective.
Yeah, I really like him. So I think that he's my top pick. And my second pick, and I will raise the red flag on myself, as this person did play already or play a role already in the original X-Men trilogy. But my second pick is Elliot Page, who some of you might have remembered played Kitty Pryde in the originals. I was trying to rack my brain so hard to remember Kitty Pryde even being in the originals because I just can't remember that character very well. But again, I raised the red flag. Regardless, I think Elliot Page would do an amazing job. I think he is an incredible actor, and I would really like to see him play this role. Also, I just want to highlight X-Men 97 has said that Morph is non-binary, and Elliot Page does identify as non-binary as well. So I did want to kind of throw in one actor that was out there that would definitely fit that aspect of the role as well. So that is my second pick for Morph.
Yeah, I think this is a great pick. I think Elliot Page is a really, really strong actor. They are someone who really does a lot of really strong work. And I think with Morph, again, like being such a strong personality, not in the sense of like Cyclops being a strong personality, but in a sense that they are a presence, that they are big and boisterous. And like, though they may not talk a lot, when they do, it's hilarious and it draws attention. And I think Elliot could actually do that really, really well. And I really like them as a pick for this for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most recent thing I saw him in was the Umbrella Academy.
Yes.
So in that TV show, it's already kind of more of a sci-fi-ish fantasy type movie, and I think he did a great job in that. So I think it's the perfect fit. And again, it's interesting. I think Morph is a hard character to kind of cast because sometimes he's just a white face, and then sometimes he's the Hulk, sometimes he's Wolverine. So it really varies. So it'll be interesting to see like their take on the character.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be more of a human form, kind of like in X-Men 97, with just kind of like as if they're wearing like a white morph suit, if anyone remembers those things from middle school, where you just zip yourself into a full body suit. So it'll be interesting. But I think Elliot Page, I think he really has the look for it, and also certainly the credits. I mean, I totally forgot that they're in Inception, Juno. I totally forgot how many movies they've been in that have been really, really good and funny. So I think he could be a good pick.
Yeah, and honestly though, you bring up a really good point with I almost wonder what they're going to do with Morph. And then I ask the bigger question of, will they even bother to do Morph in a live action? I think it would be a big miss if they don't. But I think you kind of raised some valid concerns of Morph is not always Morph.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking when I was casting the character is it made me realize that whoever takes on the role is likely not actually going to be in the film very much.
Right.
Because Morph is a one person cameo fest. Like, if they're going to play, the Hulk, they're going to roll in with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. If they're going to play Mr. Fantastic, you're going to see Pedro Pascal. Like, you're going to see all these actors
or John
coming.
Krasinski.
Or the OG.
True. Yeah, there's so many options, but like they're going to play whoever it is.
Right.
Is going to come in and do their scene. So Morph theoretically is not going to actually, that actor is not going to have that much screen time because they're just going to bring in the actors who play the role of whoever Morph is turning into. So that was something else I was thinking about.
Well, which is why I wonder if they'll even bother with Morph, because that is money.
Well, I was going to say the opposite. Like, knowing Marvel, we know they love to insert small little cameos into everything that they do. So maybe they'll use this as a great opportunity, especially since, the multiverse has been introduced and really anybody could show up. I'd be surprised if they did not take advantage of Morph, giving them the ability to literally insert anybody they want into a scene and have it make sense and have no one question it, because that's what Morph does. They morph into whoever. So I'd be very surprised if they didn't take full advantage of that in terms of cameos.
True. I almost wonder, in terms of casting Morph, if it's literally just some person in a like mocap suit.
There's
and they
no
just
one
do
actually.
it that way. Yeah, or like they bring in the actor to do a voiceover, like with Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel. Like they are the voice of Morph's natural voice, but they don't actually have to be on set, because realistically, that's going to be like, think about Jennifer Lawrence and her 8-hour makeup days when she was doing Mystique. I don't know actually how long it is, but it was something like that. When she did the full body blue for Mystique, like she was in a makeup chair forever. But like now I wonder if for Morph, it's just, okay, well, you're going to do the mocap suit. And then whether it's Elliot Page, you're going to come in and you're going to do this voiceover for a couple of days just for Morph's lines. And then you're not going to have that many, because most times like Morph is going to be played, you can't see my air quotes, listeners, but that's what I'm doing, by other characters who are coming into cameo because they've changed into a different hero.
Right.
Cool. Well, Davis, excited to hear who your picks are for Morph.
Yeah. So when I was trying to cast Morph, honestly, and I said this after we had recorded last week's episode, and I think you both were surprised, but I was like, oh, I feel like this was the easiest for me. And I do think it's because I didn't think very hard about it. In terms
Great
of
setup, buddy.
Yeah. I'm not the smartest guy. No, I'm just kidding. But I just kind of based it off of X-Men 97 and the voice of the character in that show. And to me, that voice was very much just hey, I'm a quirky, like kind of like a strange guy. Like I'm just like a little weirdo. So I think I just based it off of the voice, and to me, that's kind of who I based it on. It's just like this like kooky, quirky, fun character who's very sarcastic, and again, like we don't really see what they look like, so I really only had the voice to go off of. And so to me, the first guy that came to mind, the first actor, I'm gonna very much butcher his last name, so David, if you're watching, I'm sorry. David Dastmalchian?
He is already in Ant-Man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, you gotta do some background checks.
I know. Well, he said he didn't think very much.
Oh, that's
I mean,
true.
he set our bar low to begin with.
Yeah,
He
but
would
I
be a
just
good
he was great. He played Polka Dot Man in James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
He always plays the oddball to me in these movies. But to your point, you guys flagged me. But like we were saying earlier, it could just be a voice. So for the character of Morph. So granted, he has been in past Marvel projects, but if they decided to go to the route where it's just a mocap suit and the actor comes in and does a voiceover, I think you could easily bring in David, and not too many people would probably put the name to the face, simply because he always brings to life these side characters. Like, for example, he was in The Dark Knight, Oppenheimer, and all these movies that I'm sure if you walked up to the average person on the street and said, hey, Dave Dashmalin? And they'd be like, no. But anyone who does know him knows he's a very good actor who brings these, like, flushes out these side characters to the point where they very much become fan favorites. So if we're going to go the route of just the voiceover, I think he could really pull it off, even though he has been in the past two. Because he wasn't in the third Ant-Man, right? Just in the first two.
I don't even know if he was in the second one.
I don't remember, although his credits are saying he was in both of them. But to be fair, especially the third one, I watched that thing once and got out of there.
Yeah, I also feel like Scott's crew gets less and less screen time as the franchise goes on, so I definitely remember them him in the first one.
Well, I want to just say, I think if we went off of the initial Morph from the initial animated show, those first 5 seasons, David is an exact lookalike to the original look of Morph, which it's actually a little uncanny. But the more I'm looking at him, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what Morph looked like in the original series brought to life.
The cheekbones.
Yeah. Well, it's the cheekbones with the dark hair, and like he has the it's gonna sound weird, but he has like the mouth for it, because Morph has that like, and okay, I know I've said before on this podcast that Morph from the original series freaked me out a little bit, and he does. That doesn't mean that David freaks me out, but I thought Morph was a little weird. He gave me weird vibes, but it all was in the mouth and like the weird laugh he did. But like, I think that David could do it. So putting aside the red flag that he's already been in the MCU, I like him.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So for my second pick, again, just based on the voice from X-Men 97, the second actor that I pictured for Morph would be Jack Quaid.
I love Jack Quaid,
who's in The Boys. He voices Superman in the most recent animated Superman movie or TV show.
He played Marvel in the Hunger Games and killed Little Rue.
Yep.
You know what? Hot take, Rue had it coming. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding.
I would just like to put out for everyone listening that that Davis does not speak for the rest of the members on this podcast.
I'm walking back that comment.
Actually, you need to leave. I need you to log off this recording. You have been removed from the group chat. You're gone. Bye.
Oh, brother. All right, guys, this will be my last time on the podcast. No, I was very much kidding. Justice for Rue. Anyway, so Jack Quaid, I really like his character in The Boys, and it's very much kind of this like techie, nerdy guy who's very smart, and he's very, for lack of better words, very sarcastic and sassy to certain points, and I think that's kind of Morph to a T. So yeah, I just think Jack is just kind of like a little goofball. And to me, that's the character of Morph. And again, I have not seen any iterations of Morph in past projects. I'm strictly basing off what I've seen in the Fantastic X-Men 97. But yeah, Jack Quaid would be my second pick for Morph.
Okay, so I'm going to do my job as usual. He voiced somebody in Across the Spider-Verse. However, he voiced one of the Spider-Men, one of the 9 million Spider-Men.
I was going to say, like, you mean which one? Like, come on, dude.
Earth 65, if you wanted to be specific.
Oh, Earth 65.
Of course, I know exactly who you mean.
Yeah, exactly who you're talking about.
But I'm also going to say it's really not that prominent because, one, exactly, we don't know exactly who we're talking about. And two, you have a lot of people who have voiced people in that movie, like characters, including Mahershala Ali, who obviously is Blade. So,
Well, not to mention Oscar Isaac, who's Moon Knight.
oh, duh. Yeah. Well, I'm really low on the list at this point.
Nick Cage, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
True.
And maybe one
true.
day again.
Haley Steinfeld.
Hopefully, fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
So,
true.
let's just throw this out anyway. It doesn't really matter now that I'm looking at this. Donald Glover obviously plays the same character, but he was still in it.
Yeah. I love Jack Quaid. I think he's hilarious. I follow him. I don't actually like watch any of the stuff he's in. I do want to watch The Boys now that I finally have Amazon, but I think he's just like a really funny dude. Like his socials are hilarious, and I think that kind of vibe fits exactly with X-Men 97 Morph. So on vibes alone, I'm gonna go yes to Jack Quaid.
Yeah, Jack Quaid, he's actually one of the few Nepo babies I can put up with, him and Maya Hawke.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my two picks. I think they really fit well. But I'm excited, Taylor, to hear your picks.
All right. Well, my first pick for Morph is someone who I've actually never seen anything that they've been in, but they've been in a franchise that I trust a lot when it comes to casting. So my pick is I apologize if I butcher their name, Emma Darcy or Emma D'Arcy. They are in House of the Dragon. So knowing how well actors who have been in that Game of Thrones franchise have done, I mean, Sophie Turner, Amelia Clarke, Aquaman, whose name is currently escaping me, Jason Momoa. Like, there are so many actors who I feel like got their start in that show. I really trust that franchise in being able to pick really strong actors. So even though I've never seen them in anything, just the fact that they're in there already gives them a lot of credibility. They're also in there with Matt Smith, who is, in my opinion, one of the best actors out there, even though he was in that really interesting Morbius movie, but we don't need to talk about it. Anyway, Emma D'Arcy, I think, could do a really, really strong Morph.
I know nothing about this person. I didn't even know there was a spin-off to, what is it, Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I think it's a prequel. I don't know. I don't watch the franchise.
I don't either, and clearly you could see how little I knew because I didn't realize there was more to it. I trust your trusting abilities, and I'll just say yes. I don't know anything about this person's repertoire of acting. But again, like you said, that is a really interesting franchise. It kind of, to me, is very much like Harry Potter, or honestly, even the early MCU, I would say that it's like if you're in those roles, usually it's for good reason.
Yeah, agreed. And that was totally what I based this level of credibility off of.
Yeah, and I think if you're in a show of such notoriety as House of Dragon, you're obviously used to working on a production at a high level. And I know a lot of times you got to think about, can these actors truly go through what it takes to make a superhero film? And I think House of Dragon probably is just as rigorous in terms of what they want out of their actors to bring out the characters. So I think, again, similar to Katie, haven't seen the show, but I too agree with Taylor. I will agree with her.
Amazing. I love it when you guys agree with me. Okay. My next pick is someone who has already played a superhero, but not in the MCU, and that is Ruby Rose. You guys may remember she played Batwoman in her own Batwoman show and in various other cameos in the Arrowverse. Also was in Orange is the New Black. So if you're a fan of that, she was in that as well. And I just think, especially with the cheekbones, we talked about that with David, she just has that look. And I can imagine her in kind of like that white body paint, kind of the white painted version of what Jennifer Lawrence did. That look where you can still see the shape of their face, but it's, the morph suit looking thing of Morph. And I just think she has the look. I think having come from that superhero background, again, anybody who's done that before, even if it's on TV and in the Arrowverse, so much lower budget, I think they understand, exactly what that takes to bring those characters to life. And if I'm remembering correctly, she had a really bad experience with Batwoman. So I would love to give her the opportunity to play a superhero and have a positive experience, because most actors do have a really positive experience in the MCU. So it is sad that she had a negative one playing a superhero, and I'd love to give her the opportunity to work for a franchise that's probably going to give her a little bit more love.
Yeah,
I completely agree. And I love Ruby was also in the most recent John Wick movie. So she obviously knows how to be a good action star. And I think, again, like I said earlier, if you're in the X-Men, fighting's kind of your thing. But I really enjoyed her performance in John Wick. So I totally agree with this one as well.
I really like Ruby. I think it would be interesting to see them transformed into Morph. This could be a very interesting. I feel like it either goes very well or very poorly. So I give this one like a half thumbs up, a half vote of approval, because I can't quite decide if I see it or not.
Yeah, interesting. I thought you'd be more into that one, but that's fine. Moving into our last character of the episode and of the series, really, we are going to cast Cable now. So, Katie, hit us.
Okay, this one also needs a little bit of a flag beforehand, only for the sake of we all understand on this podcast that Cable is currently being played by Josh Brolin in the Deadpool movies. And he has done an impeccable job at playing Cable.
So good.
However, theoretically saying they do not want Josh Brolin to play that role, if we were to recast, that is what we're doing here. Or I shouldn't even say recast. If we have another universe or whatever they decide to do here, I'm under the assumption they aren't going to have it be Josh Brolin. Also because Thanos, but that's its own thing, and we're just gonna everybody's ignoring that. So, my first pick, I don't know how to pronounce this person's last name. I was looking it up trying to figure it out. And then I also got really sad relationship news according to this person. They've divorced their spouse, who I also really like. But I picked Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, I know. He and Sofia Vergara got divorced. What a tragedy.
I just learned that trying to look up his last name.
I know. That one's tough.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not even going to try. Joe M.
Just go Joe.
Yeah,
Joe.
good old Joe from, I know him from Magic Mike. I'm not going to lie about that. Who has Channing Tatum and Alex Pettyfer, both of which have been brought up during this series for various reasons. For Gambit, actually.
Between stealing from Iron Claw and Magic Mike, like, what are we doing over here, friends?
They have been the only two places I feel like I've seen men ever, apparently.
And Euphoria. Just like those three franchises were like, everybody, let's go.
Yeah. Well, I love Joe. I know he's been in other things, but I do know him most from those movies that come to mind. I think he's a great actor. Cable's kind of hard because you're never really sure how old he is, too, which is kind of the hard part with him. And I just keep picturing Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
So I think a different take on him would be going with Joe. I think he'd be a very interesting new aspect. But I don't know, because again, I keep seeing Josh Brolin.
Well, now it's my turn to wave the red flag. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, I really didn't do research on this one.
He was in the first Spider-Man movie with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man
that's right.
movies, which
He
I
played
didn't know
Flash.
until I'm literally looking at
Shut
IMDb.
up.
Yes, he played Flash Thompson when he was like in his early 20s. Now that you mention it, he does. He has like 5 seconds. Yeah, he has like 3 lines. Yeah, he bullies Toby.
Finally, I can wave the red flag.
No, but like that is insane.
Yeah.
To be fair, Davis, I was like barely alive when these movies came out.
That is true. This what 2001?
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that was him, because isn't he like kind of blonde too?
Oh, he was in all 3 of the Tobey Maguire movies.
Well, he's Flash Thompson. He's his bully.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize Flash was in all 3.
I didn't either.
I forgot.
Yeah,
Shut
that's
up,
hilarious.
Well, to be fair though, he played that role when he was probably like 20,
Yeah.
and it has like 25 years later. So I wouldn't have even
People
known.
will not recognize him.
No, but it is so funny when you watch that movie now, because I know exactly what scene
Yes,
you're
me
picturing.
too.
Yeah, or you're talking about. Yeah. He's an interesting one for me. I actually think, and you might hate this, but I actually think he'd be a better pick for a Magneto, depending on how old our other X-Men are.
I thought about it.
Yeah, he wears his hair a little longer sometimes. And if you think about him going a little longer with the hair and graying it out, I actually think I like him more for Magneto.
I considered it.
If you look at the first picture when you Google his name, Taylor, it's him with very long hair and a very built, sculpted body. So I think that fits Magneto to a T, at least if it's a younger version of Magneto.
Enough said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with either direction. I think, personally, I could still see him pull off the Cable look, because he's also, with the graying hair, I actually can see the Cable, like, in him.
I will agree. I'm looking at a photo of him now with more of like a more gruff look because he has facial hair. And to me, Cable is very much, this like kind of like gruff. And it's also interesting talking point for age too, because I was trying to look up like 50-year-old actors, because to me Cable is very much an older character, even if our main X-Men characters are young. Cable is from the future.
Older than his own parents.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Time travel.
But I agree, like, just looking at gruffer pictures of Joe, he does have that grizzled look that I could really see of Cable. I agree.
Thank you. My other pick is a completely different direction for Cable, but because Josh Brolin, obviously being in Deadpool, it was still comedic and still had a really light tone to it, even though there was clearly a lot of gore and other things going on. I went with Nathan Fillion, my fave Castle.
Oh,
King.
yes.
King.
I love him.
Yep.
I have loved him forever. I think he'd be a very interesting Cable. I think he could. Oh no, I'm getting the finger. Was he in something?
He was in Guardians 3 as one of those people in the meat suits.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah. He was like meat suit leader guy. I don't
Darn
actually
you,
know that they were
James Gunn.
meat suits, but that's what they
James
looked like.
Gunn, jeez.
What a
Yeah.
waste, too.
I know.
Because he'll never reprise it. That role's not important enough to be reprised.
It's because he's friends with James Gunn, and now he's going to be in the DCU with a real role because he and James Gunn are friends. So he just got him into that movie as his swan song in the MCU. At least that's what I'm assuming, which is dumb because, to your point, now he's off the board.
Crap.
But there are a million movies that are being made just not by James Gunn.
Crap.
Yeah.
That's so annoying because I actually really could, especially as he's kind of aging a little more.
Yeah.
I could really see him being Cable.
He's a little tall because Cable's a little on the shorter side. But other than that,
Yeah, but that's it's not like Wolverine who's it's important that Wolverine's probably short.
right. And it's definitely not the most important thing, but I think that's the only thing that's a struggle for me because otherwise, to your point, facially, even body wise, I
Yeah.
feel like he could do. He just needs to build out a little bit more. Nothing insane, but I think he could really do it. Yeah, it is a bummer because he had that
Crap.
annoying
Yeah, and
cameo
it's such a
in
waste too because
Guardians.
again, it's not even he played an actually prominent role.
Yeah,
Ugh, darn you, James Gunn.
I know. For so many reasons. How dare you abandon us and go try to be a Kevin Feige?
Yeah, and in doing so, you screwed us.
I know.
Thank you for the Guardians, though. Shout out to the Guardians trilogy.
Yeah, we do.
but
We do
also
love that
thank you very
franchise.
much.
So
we appreciate
we
you.
love you, but bye. All right, those were some interesting picks. They have some interesting flags to them too. But moving on, Davis, who are your picks for Cable?
So originally, I forgot we were casting Cable.
Reed, we forgot to tell him we were casting Cable, so sorry.
We had a
Well,
side
I even think
discussion
I
and
was the
never
one who
told
was like,
Davis.
we should cast Cable.
Surprise!
When I forgot that we were casting Cable in this episode, in this week's episode, I put this actor who I was like, this is Cable for another character that we talked about in the episodes past. So I'll just mention briefly before going to my picks, but I really can see, I know I said this guy earlier, Alan Ritson, who I said could play good Beast. Ritson, I really hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, but like I said, played Aquaman in Smallville, Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. He, in my mind, is Cable. I think he has the physique, he has the all-around look. So he was my number one, but because I already mentioned him in past episodes, I kind of shuffled things around. The first pick for Cable, I really liked his look, but Timothy Oliphant,
Yes.
who is Cobb Vanth in Mando and the Book of Boba
Caitlin,
Fett.
he was Alex Pettifer's uncle, and I am number 4.
Oh, I know exactly who we're talking about.
I knew we just needed that one piece of
clued in,
context.
guys.
So Timothy Oliphant, if you just look up a picture, I just think he kind of looks similar to Josh Brolin already. So if they wanted to go the route, maybe they don't want to recast, but maybe this is a Cable from an alternate dimension or, some different timeline, then maybe they'd want to cast an actor who looks very similar. But I just think he has the facial structure and the look. He's not, every picture of Cable that I looked up is this larger than life bowling ball for muscles guy. And Timothy, yes, he's very athletic looking, but he's not a Terry Crews, or I'm trying to think of really big muscled guys. But I think and I'm seeing, I'm being shown a picture of him looking very chiseled and toned. So I stand corrected.
Yeah, I think just put on a little bulk. That's my only
Yeah,
feedback.
but he's
A
got
little
the
bit of
muscle
bulk.
already. He
Yeah.
just has to bulk up a little.
But I think he's got the wit, he's got the sarcasm, and he can also play the gruffness of Cable, which I really think is a key part of his character. Because I think Cable is very much, he's from the future. he's been through the ringer. He's been through a lot of shit. I don't know if we can swear on this podcast, but I just think he has, the gruffness, the wit, the charm, the charisma that, Josh Brolin certainly brought to the character of Cable and in X-Men 97. So that's why I had Timothy as my first pick, just because I just think he looks very similar to the character and the things that I've seen of him in the past, like Cobb Vanth and Mando playing the sheriff. He lays down the law. He's a man of morals. So that's why I thought he would be a good pick for Cable.
Yeah,
I like it.
love this.
Yeah.
I think it's a good pick.
I don't even have any words to say. I approve.
No notes?
Yeah, no notes. I approve.
So yeah, for my second pick for Cable, I really could see, I was a big fan of him in Mad Men. John Hamm, I could really see playing Cable.
I almost put John Hamm.
I don't see it.
I just think just the way his look, his voice, he brings just a big, strong energy to the screen. Although he does play some comedic roles, like in the movie Tag with Jeremy Renner. Shout out
love
Jeremy
that
Renner.
movie.
But I just think he has the look. If he grew out some facial hair, he could really bring the gruffness to the Cable role. I think he's not a short guy. He's not a tall guy or a short guy, so he might be perfect in the middle. But I just think he has the right charisma. He's the right age as well, because to me, Cable is kind of seems like around like the 50 years old thing. But just, I mean, in Baby Driver, he played a villain, obviously. And so to me, Cable isn't necessarily a villain, but he does have bad guy tendencies. And so I think whoever plays Cable will have to bring that kind of energy to the character. And just based on his villainous portrayal in Baby Driver, and then his more of a educated, informative character, his character in Mad Men, that's why I put John Hamm. He's 6'1", so I think he'd be a good fit. Not too tall, not too short.
Yeah, I think my thing with him is, you were kind of saying with Cable being, he's not villainous. I think it's more of he's a I'll do whatever needs to get done type of character, and he doesn't really care how he has to do it.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Which, I mean, he lives in a future that seems to always change depending on what they do in the past. So I get it. I would love to see him. The only reason I didn't put him on my list was because he has very striking blue eyes. And I know it's stupid, but because they brought such attention to it in X-Men 97, Cable has Cyclops' eyes, which theoretically doesn't matter for anybody who's playing Cyclops. However, the point was, like, Cyclops has brown eyes. That's the whole thing they bring attention to. That's not to say they can't say Cyclops had blue eyes. Again, whoever's playing Cyclops, we probably will never see their eyeballs. So it doesn't super matter, but that is literally why I was like, no, I can't put him. He doesn't have brown eyes. So minor reason.
Well, that's a good point. To be honest, I haven't spent a ton of time staring into John Hamm's eyes, so I didn't really
Listen,
clock that. But
you don't need to talk to me about what I do in my free time. We don't need to question it. Okay?
Hey, we all have our things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see this one. This one is just like, I feel like Kate has done this to me a couple times where she's like, the vibe's not right. That's how I feel about John Hamm. I don't know. I think because I have such a vision of him as Don Draper from Mad Men, and I didn't even watch the show. It was just such a culturally relevant moment that for me, he's always gonna play, like, in my head, gonna be this super suave guy. And I've seen him in other stuff where he's not. Like, isn't he in Bridesmaids? Like, he's in this, like, really interesting stuff that's not, serious or dramatic. But to me, he's always gonna be that guy. And I just don't see him playing a guy like Cable who is so, like, gruff and, like, gonna do whatever. I just, like, whatever it takes. I don't know. This one isn't working for me.
See, I think that's so funny because I know him more distinctively from funnier roles. And so my only other concern was almost the opposite, where I was like, can he do the seriousness? Because I've seen him in, obviously we said Tag. Tag was hilarious,
So
and that's
funny.
what comes to mind.
Baby Driver, Serious and Baby Driver.
I've seen parts of that movie. There are other reasons why I won't watch that movie. But he also was just like in the new Mean Girls, where he was the gym teacher and he was hilarious. So, like, that's coming to mind.
He does give off like Phil Dunphy vibes from Modern Family.
Yes, 100%. So, like, that's what I think about with him, which is why I was kind of like, I'm not sure, because I need to be able to see him do the serious role. Of course, I'm sure he can and he has. So I think that's kind of ironic that Taylor has the opposite concern. So put him together and he can do the role is what I'm hearing.
Meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, with that pick, we are down to our last two of this entire fan casting series. And I have been pulling heavily from the Arrowverse this entire episode for some reason. So I'm going to continue that because my next two actors are both from the Arrowverse, one specifically from it and one who cameoed because he's in a very famous somewhat prequel to the Arrowverse, which is my favorite pick maybe of all time. Not because he fits, but because my childhood. But anyway, my first actor is Dominic Purcell. He played Heatwave in the Arrowverse. He started out in Flash and then made the switch over to Legends of Tomorrow, which is also the show that Ramona Young was in. He is also well known for Prison Break. I'm going to red flag myself. He was in Blade, the original, with Wesley Snipes. But I think in terms of build, that was why he immediately came to mind for me. He's a little bit on the shorter side, but he's super, super stocky. His character, Heatwave in Legends of Tomorrow, is super gruff. He's actually a villain who turns a hero, which to Davis's point kind of hits that almost anti-hero vibe that Cable gives off. And immediately, I think I don't actually know if he's by choice bald or if he is no longer able to grow hair. But whether he grows his hair back out or he gets a wig to put on that gray hair, I just feel like he is, in my head, like exactly who I would picture if it wasn't Josh Brolin.
He just married Tish Cyrus.
Yes, that whole thing. Yeah, that's that guy.
Oh, okay. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I'm not like, yes. I don't think I'd celebrate if he was casted, but I wouldn't. Like, if they did it right, to your point, with like a wig or whatever they have to do there, like I wouldn't not be able to get behind it, but I'm not a big fan.
No, I think to me, when I was trying to cast Cable, I was trying to look at just their physique, because obviously Cable has a very notable physique. And so I was like, oh, maybe I could look for, wrestlers or like WWE superstars, which obviously have had success making the jump from wrestling to acting, a la Dave Bautista, John Cena
would actually be a
The
pretty
Rock.
interesting Cable.
He would actually.
I
Right when
almost
you were
put
saying
John Cena
that.
on my list, but I'm like, he was Peacemaker, so I don't know if they can I think people know him too much as that. So I think Dominic has that look. He definitely has the Cable look. Is he mainly an actor, or is he an ex like boxer or wrestler?
I'm not sure.
Because to me, he has that athletic like fighter look, which I think is perfect for Cable.
He totally does. I am not sure what he did before he acted. I mean, Prison Break was like 25 years ago. So he's definitely been acting for a really long time. But 25 years ago, I was like an infant. So I don't know if he was like doing other stuff before he became an actor. But you're right. He does definitely have that kind of gruff, like I was doing other stuff before I became an actor look.
Mm-hmm.
I can't confirm that, but I really liked him for this role. My next pick is someone who I loved growing up. Like, if you want to talk like OG obsessions, first superhero obsession, it is none other than Clark Kent himself, Tom Welling, as my pick for Cable. He's now 47. He's all grown up. And he's a little bit stockier now than he was when he was playing a really young Kal-El. And I just think as he's kind of filled out and grown and matured, I really just think he would be really interesting in the role. Again, having been that kind of lead man in a superhero franchise, not really franchise, in a superhero show, kind of at the very beginning of when all of that was starting. I just feel like now he could definitely do it. He might have to bulk up a little bit, but I don't know. I love him so much. He's maybe not the best pick for it, but because I loved him growing up, I just had to toss him in here.
To be honest, I didn't see Smallville, but I know him from Cheaper by the Dozen.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, fair.
I'm vetoing this one.
Boo.
Like full-blown vetoing.
To me, honestly, I think he'd be a better Cyclops, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's too old for Cyclops.
Oh, true.
Well, to me, he doesn't, this is going to sound weird, but he doesn't look quite old enough. And I don't think he can get there. Like, some of these other actors can definitely, like, pull off if you gray him out. I don't see that. I also just am looking at more recent pictures of him. And I just, like, he's a short king, isn't he?
I have no idea how tall he is.
Because he's definitely giving short king vibes. Oh, no, he is 6'3".
I was going to say,
does
he
give
played
short king
Superman. I
vibes.
don't think he's that short.
Listen, I was all for him 20 years ago. Do I think he's Cable now? No, not at all.
Boo.
Sorry.
I'm kind of on the fence. I can kind of see it. I can kind of not. But I'm just looking at photos of him where he looks older, and I could kind of see it, but he kind of does have a little bit of a baby face.
Well, I think that's part of it. But honestly, what's weird too is like he's a shapeshifter. I'm looking at pictures of him that like they all could be around the same age, yet he looks different in every single one of them, which is making it very hard for me to make a call here because I can't tell.
I agree. I think they could, with makeup or prosthetics, they could make it work if they wanted to. I think I could see the potential.
Thank you, Tom Welling. How dare you say no to Tom Welling?
I think he'd be more interesting in a different role.
Boo.
I would love him in the MCU. I agree. Somewhere, if not Cable. I know he's too old for Cyclops, but he would be a great addition to the MCU.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we have completed our fan casting of the live action X-Men, at least those that were the most prominent in both animated series. So glad you guys followed along with us. We'll be really excited to see how this all shakes out in the next few months, maybe year or so, as Marvel actually goes ahead and casts these folks. Maybe Comic-Con in a few weeks, who knows? But stay with us because we are definitely going to be continuing to cover all X-Men updates as we get them and as the movie does get closer. If you're excited to hear us talk about more X-Men things as we get more details, definitely make sure to subscribe or follow on your podcast platform of choice. Also, make sure you're checking out the website, which is the central hub to all things related to the show and is also doubling as the home to our blog, which is a great resource. After this episode, we're going to have one blog post that lists out the top picks for every character that we've done over the last 4 episodes. So if you want a little refresher, that'll be up there for you to reference. And yeah, definitely a good spot. So make sure that you're checking it out frequently or bookmarking it or whatever you do because that's the spot.
You guys can also follow us on Twitter at SisAssembledPod, Instagram and Threads at Sisters Assembled, and also YouTube at Sisters Assembled as well, where our weekly news segments, our Sisters Scoops, are. So you guys can be staying up to date with all of Marvel news every week with us over there. So go ahead and give us a subscribe. And before we finish out, we got to give a shout out to Davis for joining us. These have been great 4 weeks. We're so happy we could have you back on the pod. So thank you for being our third in all of our fan castings.
Yeah, of course. It was exciting and I had a lot of fun doing this. I didn't know I would enjoy this as much as I did fan casting these characters. So thank you as always for having me on. I always love talking with you guys and being on the podcast. So just, yeah, thank you for having me back and hopefully I'll be back in the future.
Of course. Well, anytime. And with that being said, again, it has been 4 weeks of fan casting. This is the final one. So thank you for joining us for all of this, guys. And next week, we are going to do a quick birthday celebration because we weren't quite able to do it because we were in the middle of our fan casting. So we are going to do a quick birthday episode just talking about all things podcast related, real quick and fun, and celebrating starting year 4 as a podcast. So make sure you guys join us for that and stay up to date with Marvel and us as always, as Marvel just blew your mind. So let's talk about it.